Welcome to Gardening with Ben, the podcast where we dig into the soil of our gardens and the depths of our green thumbs. I'm your host Ben, here to guide you through the joys of gardening from sowing seeds to reaping bountiful harvests. Each episode will explore tips, tricks and tales from the garden and allotment, sharing insights from ourselves and stories from our own back garden adventures. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just getting your hands dirty for the first time, there's something here for everyone. So grab your brew and gardening gloves and let's get growing with Gardening with Ben. Hello and welcome to the Gardening with Ben podcast, where we delve into the art and joy of gardening in the garden and allotment. In this episode, we're focusing on the perfect plants to start in January. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, this time of year offers unique opportunities for planting. We'll explore which vegetables and flowers thrive in the cooler months and how to prepare your soil for early planting and tips for indoor gardening to kickstart your spring garden. So grab your gloves and join us as we dig into the best planting strategies for January. Let's get gardening. So one of my favourite episodes that I do love to record from a podcast, which I have to admit I did not do last year, but we are going to get them done this year. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We're going to be talking about what to plant in January. And every month we'll record this episode telling you each things what you can plant ready for your allotment and gardening. And remember, this is from the UK, so all the advice is for the UK, but it also goes down to the weather and the temperature as well. So sometimes take some stuff with a pinch of salt because it all depends on the weather in your area. And sometimes with gardening and it being a new year, everybody gets a little bit excited and gets too carried away and starts stuff too early. Sometimes it's good to wait a couple of months until it warms up and then get starting all those seeds. So these are just some ideas of the sort of things that you can be starting to sow in each month. And in this episode, we'll be talking about what vegetables to plant, what fruit to plant, what herbs to get growing, and what flowers to get growing, because flowers are a vital part of an allotment. And without the flowers, the bees won't appear and they won't help pollinate the other plants. And more bees that you get to your plot, the more produce you will get because they're helping. They're doing the work that needs to be done, they're pollinating, which create the fruit and the vegetables on your plants. So make sure you get growing some flowers on your allotment. And I went down to my plot today and had a little look, and all the spring bulbs are starting to pop through. So it's going to look absolutely fantastic. But we'll talk about that in another episode coming up. So, like I said, in this episode, we're going to talk about what to plant each month. And in this month, we're going to be talking about the month of January, as it is a new year, a new month. And yeah, we're getting ready to start sowing those seeds and getting excited in growing for the year. And I always love this time of year because it's a new year, it's a new start. It's time to try stuff again. If it's failed before, give it a try again. You never know, you may have success this year. So, first off, we're going to talk about what vegetables to plant in January. And there's not many vegetables that you can plant in January because, like I say, the weather is very cold at the moment and very wet. So it's a case of just having a look and seeing what stuff we can be getting going off with. So the first thing I need to say is make sure you've got a little notebook or something where you can make a note of some of these stuff, what you can start growing, and let me know. Let me know if you're going to be starting any. I'm always an Instagram message away. If you follow me on Instagram, send me a message and let me know what you're growing. So first off, the first thing that you can get growing this time of month are broad beans. Um, but when you're growing broad beans at this time of month, they need to be winter hardy ones. They need to be ones that can cope with the cold weather, the ones that uh, wouldn't get killed off with the frost. So make sure you check the variety and make sure that it is a winter hardy variety when you're growing them. And The best thing to do at this time of year is start them off in pots in the greenhouse. A, it'll be a bit warmer in there, and B, it will protect them from the birds and the rats and the squirrels. Because there's not much food around at the moment, the birds will come and pinch them, and the rats will smell them out and they'll come and eat them and take them all. So the best thing to do is start them off in a greenhouse or a polytunnel where it is a bit warmer, get them growing to a decent height, and then plant them out when they are ready, probably around late February, beginning of March. So start some off now and give them a try. Next up is celery. Now, I've never grown celery because I cannot stand the stuff. So I am not an expert whatsoever on celery. But celery needs to be started this month if you are wanting to start it to grow, because it takes so long to grow. You need to get started in January with it. And the best thing to do is either start it off on a light windowsill or in a heated propagator. They won't germinate in a cold greenhouse. It needs to be nice and warm, uh, in a warm environment. So if you're wanting to start some celery, the best month is to start it off now. But don't go sharing it with me because I will not eat it. Next up are onions. Now, are you wanting to grow some massive onions? Now is the time to be starting them off. And this is the month to be starting your onions off if you're wanting to start them from seed, because this will give them the chance to grow nice and big and huge, ready for those exhibitions if you are wanting to put them on show. I've never put anything in any shows myself because I'm not an expert and I cannot get them to grow massive. I've tried, but I cannot get huge onions to grow. So if you're wanting to start some onions off from seed, now is the time to be doing them. And again, you'll need to start them off on a windowsill or in a heated propagator to get them to germinate and to get them growing now. Potatoes. Potatoes will start appearing in all the shops. All the seed potatoes will start showing up around. And there's a question what I always ask is to chit potatoes or not to chit. Chitting means putting them on a windowsill and letting them start sprouting. When you don't chit them, you just put them straight into the soil and let them grow. But chitting them usually starts them off and gets them stronger and gets the eyes growing some shoots from them, and it gets them ready and started early. So it can sometimes help produce more and more crops. So I always start chitting them. So now is the time to start chitting your potatoes to plant out ready in March, April time, around Easter time. So have a look round all the garden centres or the DIY stores and have a look, see and try and find some potatoes. Get them in some egg boxes with the eyes facing upwards and put them on a windowsill. And yeah, see if they start shooting and then get them ready to plant out in March, April time. So that is all the vegetables that you can start growing this month. Now, like I said, there's not many that you can start this month, as obviously it is very cold. As the months go on, there will be loads and loads more stuff what we can be planting. So these episodes will get longer and longer as the months get closer to the warmer seasons. So next up are herbs. Now, it's too cold to be starting any herbs in any greenhouse or polytunnel or planting any outside. It's too cold for them to be growing. So if you're wanting to start some herbs off, the best advice is start some off on a windowsill in some pots if you're wanting to start them off nice and early. Or sometimes what people do is they buy the herbs from the shops in the um, plant pots already, because you can buy them nice and cheap. They're not too expensive, and then they'll pot them on and then plant them out later on once they're nice and big and the cold weather's gone, so it doesn't kill them off and make them get frost and killed. So yeah, not many herbs can be planted this time of year. So next up after that is what fruit can be planted. Now is the time to be planting bare rooted fruit trees. Um, Again, the reason why we plant the fruit trees around now is because of the wet weather. The wet weather will help the fruit trees take, and if you plant them in summer, they'll struggle to get the water that they need to get rooted and get growing and get nice and healthy. So if you're wanting any fruit trees in your garden or allotment, now is the time to be doing it. So have a look around. There's some good bargains around. I've purchased some good ones from the supermarkets in the past, and they're doing fantastic on my plot. So have a look around, have a look at some bargains, and see what you can plant. And remember, once you plant it, it's going to be there forever. So make sure you choose the right spot to plant it in, because I planted a few in the wrong places, which I shouldn't have done. But yeah, remember, they will be there forever. Next up are raspberries. Now is the time to be planting your raspberry canes. You can either buy summer fruiting raspberries or autumn fruiting raspberries. My personal choice, I prefer the autumn raspberries to summer raspberries. They seem to produce bigger berries and more crops. And with the autumn raspberries, you chop the cane down at the end of the year and they'll grow on the new canes what grow the year after. Whereas summer fruiting raspberries fruit on the canes that grew the year before. So you've got to be careful which ones you chop down. You don't want to chop the wrong canes down or you won't get no fruit. So yeah, now is the time to be planting raspberries. So what varieties will you be planting? I have got summer fruiting ones and I've got autumn fruiting ones on my plot. I'm looking at having some golden raspberries on the plot as well, which are yellow, which very peculiar looking to the eye, but I'm sure they'll taste absolutely delicious. Rhubarb. Who doesn't love rhubarb? I am certainly a big fan of rhubarb. If you've seen photos from my plot, you know that I like rhubarb. I must have about 17, 18 crowns on my plot of rhubarb, and you'll probably say, why have you got so much rhubarb? But I do give a lot of it away to family and friends because it's so expensive to buy in the shops, but it's so easy to grow. So yeah, I've got lots of rhubarb on my plot. It's no hardship growing rhubarb. You can get some great crops from it, and obviously you can get some delicious fruit crumbles, fruit pies, and also in drinks and stuff like that, or pop it in your gin, as all the people seem to be doing nowadays. So yeah, now is the time to be planting your rhubarb crowns while they're dormant. But remember, do not pick your rhubarb in the first year. Once you've planted it, you need to let it settle in the ground for the first year. Don't be tempted to pull it and use it. Just let it grow and let it take shape. The year after, you will get a massive crop from it. So make sure you don't pick it in its first year. So that is all the fruit what can be planted this month. So next up are the flowers. Now I'm going to be starting some flowers off, so make sure you stay tuned for what I'm growing on my plot. And the first thing is snapdragons. Now again, if you're wanting to be starting your snapdragons off, you need to be starting them off on a heated windowsill or in a propagator so that they'll germinate and get growing. Next up are sweet peas. Now, I bought these a couple of months ago and I was meaning to start them off, so I do need to get them growing now. We do need to start my sweet peas off. Sweet peas are an important part to my plot. And last year I didn't get any growing on my plot, but this year we want to have a nice display. As the thing is with sweet peas is that the more you pick them, the more they'll flower and they'll keep flowering throughout the summer and autumn. And yeah, if you don't pick them, they'll just start going to seed and then they'll think that they've come to the end of the time and they'll stop growing. So you do need to keep cutting them and picking them. So sweet peas are a good time to be starting off now. If you start them off now, it makes them stronger and you can expect a bigger crop from your sweet pea plants. Now, I'll be talking about sweet peas in another episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I'll be sharing my tips on how I get them to germinate and how I get them to grow. So I won't talk too much about sweet peas. I found a very good tip on getting sweet peas to grow and to germinate. Some people struggle to get them to germinate, but I have like literally 100% success rate with growing sweet peas from seed. Next up are lobelia. Again, if you're wanting to be starting some lobelia off, lobelia is obviously good in pots and hanging baskets. You see it hanging down and in flower. Um, so if you're wanting to start some lobelia off, now is the time to be starting them off again in a heated greenhouse or a windowsill. I think I can remember the seeds from these. They're absolutely minuscule. So make sure you do sprinkle them out nice and evenly. And if you're wanting to be starting some of those off. So yeah, now is the time to be starting your lobelia off. So that is everything what can be started in January down at the allotment. And in my up and coming episode, we'll be talking about all the jobs which need doing in the garden in January. And I usually like to use that as a little tick list so that I can tick them off and make sure that I've done all these jobs, that I'm up to date and keeping up to date with everything on my plot and getting it all ready for the months ahead, because the months ahead are going to be exciting months. It's good when you start getting into the summer and getting into all the harvesting and stuff like that. So it's good to be prepared, get stuff done and out of the way pretty early. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you've enjoyed listening to all the stuff what we can start sowing this month. And I'm going to be talking in a couple of episodes about what seeds I'm going to be growing this year, and thinking about the new stuff what I might try down at the plot this year. So I'm going to be looking into all that, so make sure you stay tuned for that episode as well. And I'm enjoying getting back into doing these podcasts, and the response that I've been getting back from them has been phenomenal, and lots of people seem to be listening to them again. It'll take a while to get the numbers back up to what people were listening to before, but hopefully people will start to see that my podcasts are back and they'll tune in and listen to them all. So again, make sure you click that subscribe button and notification button. If you've not left a review on this podcast, please do. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, you can leave a review, and it does help push my podcast out even more, and we've got loads of 5-star reviews. So thank you for those that have left a review. So until next time, everyone, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everybody. Thank you for listening. And that wraps up another episode of Gardening with Ben. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Remember, every seed planted is a step towards a greener world, and every day is a chance to grow something beautiful. Keep nurturing your gardens and your souls. Until next time, I'm Gardening with Ben, reminding you to let your garden be your sanctuary. Happy gardening, and see you in the next episode. Remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben.